Today, we will talk about the US debt clock and the most recent secret window, which is actually interesting for a change. There's probably a lot more hidden in here and all kinds of more cryptic things I could chase down. But I thought that this one was particularly interesting because of this little symbol right here. And before we get into that, I want to explain how this relates to the price of gold as well. So there has been a lot of price action in the price of gold over the last week or so, and it actually went over 2,100 bucks for a bit. It is at 2089.70 as of December 1st. So I don't know if this chart hasn't updated yet, or how exactly that works. No, I take that back. It's now at 2054, but on December 1st, it was 2089. So if we go back to the debt clock, which is not an official site, I want everyone to understand that. There are some really interesting values for the price of gold and silver as well. Now, I sort of follow some conspiracy things still, and I'm at the point where if it happens, that's great. If not, then I am preparing myself how I can. So these prices are based on the production amounts of gold and silver compared to the USD, not what they are being reflected as in the markets, which, especially with silver, are extremely manipulated. So if we go to the secret window, it refers to James Madison, and it has a quote that says, History records that the money changers have used every form of abuse, intrigue, deceit, and violent means possible to maintain their control over governments by controlling money and its issuance." 100% right. Now, the interesting part is this T here, and that font might look a little familiar, and it seems to be paired up next to a gold coin. Now, it has an X over the International Monetary Fund, which is interesting. I don't really know what that means. We, of course, do not have any proof or anything that would show that the International Monetary Fund is having any officially reported problems, but the fiat money system has been broken for a long time. So if we go to this end account, which I don't really follow a lot, I think a lot of it is way too outlandish and too tinfoil even for me, in all honesty. But there are some interesting points to be made that connect with some things that are happening right now, including what is happening with Evergrande. It seems like this is actually behind a paywall, but I don't need that whole article to actually make my point. So the question many will ask, what is this symbol that was on the secret window? Real question is, what are the three types of future money systems? Oh, the symbol in the center of the token is the T letter in crypto font. Some call it bit, 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 Bitcoin font, which is just an artistic font. And if you haven't ever seen the crypto font, here you go. That looks exactly like the B that is on the Bitcoin symbol. So that makes you think that whoever is controlling this US debt clock account is saying that Bitcoin or crypto will be the currency of the future, along with gold and debt-free currency, which there is a lot of talk out there about the US dollar will be replaced with the US note. God. Okay. So again, we will have to wait and see what actually happens with that. So I found a tweet and I had it saved. It's from Mike Christo 8. This guy gets a lot of heat on X because he's a little um, bombastic with his information and his predictions and projections, but he makes some good points. Now, the most interesting point is obviously China is going to float U.S. gold price to 2,500 bucks this week to break the U.S. banks. I have been hearing in my conspiracy end of things that the U.S. banking system will be collapsing soon. But we've also heard that for a very long time now, so I don't really take that into account in any of my analyses. That is just one tiny piece of the information that I actually check. OPEC countries now hold renminbi, which I actually had to look that up. That is essentially the same thing as the Chinese yuan. While the two are often used interchangeably, the renminbi is the official currency of China and refers to the value of the Chinese currency, while the yuan is the unit of account and is used to denote the amount of money being exchanged. In practical terms, that doesn't really make much sense, so I'm just considering them to be one and the same. The only other interpretation I can make is that one is more imaginary than the other one is. And if it's a fiat currency, it is just imaginary. Um, OPEC countries now hold one, which OPEC has performed a transaction with China for oil in the Chinese yuan and not the USD. So the power of the petrodollar is beginning to have some trouble. OPEC did another 1 million barrel production cut on Friday, December 1st. China will break the U.S. gold paper contracts, which would be very good for the price of gold because paper contracts are what are used to effectively manipulate the actual price of gold and silver as well. China will break the U.S. Treasury bond market. I don't understand the ins and outs of the bond market, so I won't get into that a whole lot. The reverse repo will be drained to zero this week. That has to do with the money printing and lending mechanisms that run the Federal Reserve, which is neither federal nor a reserve of anything. I also talked about that when I was talking about BlackRock and USDC as well. They are looking to do some kind of a reverse repo scheme in order to lend out USDC overnight and then get paid on the interest on it. And it's essentially a smaller version of the Federal Reserve, except in USDC. The GSIBs will all collapse. I'm assuming that means the G7 countries and the G20 countries and stuff. I don't know. The answer, according to him, is that ISO 222 prevents the Fed from ever doing quantitative easing again. Uh, Basel 3 is important because that, in layman's terms, says that the financial institutions actually have to have the reserves for the deposits that they hold. That hasn't come into real world effect yet, so I don't really know how important it is and whether or not that is actually how it is intended. U.S. Treasury bonds will no longer serve as the global reserve asset and collateral that trades oil to value America's debt. China is now coordinating the float to float the gold price to 2,500 bucks this week to coincide with the reverse repo drain. P.S. See my tweet from 11/26 last night. Just for fun, let's see if I can find that real quick. Um, when would have that have been, like 23 hours ago? Maybe this one. No, that would have been over here somewhere. Um, I don't know. He is retweeting this Ariel account a lot, which has some really interesting information. It is very tinfoil. So just heads up on that. Oh, this is something about Basel III. The Basel Committee on Banking Supervision has not published a list of Basel III compliant banks. However, some banks have publicly announced that they are compliant. Now, some financial information providers compile lists of Basel III compliant banks based on their own analysis. It is important to note that even if a bank is not on an official list, it may still be meeting the requirements. This is because the BCBS does not mandate that banks publicly disclose their compliance. Um, Here are some of the largest U.S. banks that are publicly announced to be compliant. Now, does this automatically make your local branch compliant? No. So you have Bank of America, Citi, J.P. Morgan Chase, Wells Fargo, Goldman Sachs, and Morgan. Can't say STs. I don't know why I try. So I don't know. So we have the gold price on the rise, especially even since 2020 when it peaked just under or just over $2,000. It is now over that. And then this tied me into Evergrande as well. I don't really know enough about it specifically, but basically it is a Chinese real estate development firm that is doing a lot of really suspicious things to try to stay publicly solvent. It looks like it has been on the way out for a long time now, but they are somehow able to continue to push this out. I don't know how, but I know why. It's because they don't want things to just absolutely implode. So that has been pushed from today, December 4th, to a liquidation decision adjourned to January 29th. So that's almost another 2 full months. And this is interesting. I checked into it a bit more. China's economic woes have began a gold rush, which is from September 29th of 2023. It is a long article, so um, it is just explaining how, because of the power and the interconnections of this of the Evergrande company, there's a lot riding on it. And when things get very risky and uncertain, people tend to go into gold and silver and more reliable tangible assets. So, however, this all ties together, I don't know, but I really think it's interesting about the U.S. debt clock, directly hinting at gold, Bitcoin, and some kind of a new U.S. Treasury note that would presumably be said to run on some kind of a asset-backed currency, which would very likely include gold and or silver and probably other things as well.